But.
Oh, such a shame. There always has to be a but.
Everything before the word but is whole.
Episode 2 of His Dark Materials was even better than Episode 1. This video is an analysis of the episode in terms of the story as a whole, so there are going to be some spoilers. Please close out if that's a concern. In this breakdown, we're going to focus on two important topics that they're setting up to pay off at the end of the season: bonds and separation, and manipulation through deception. Since we got the reveal that Marissa Coulter and the Golden Monkey have the power of separation in this episode, let's start there, bonding and separation. The Gobblers kidnap Billy, separating him from the Egyptians, including his mother, Ma Costa, his brother, Tony Costa, and his mentor, Benjamin de Ruyter. So, a piece of Ma Costa's soul, namely her son Billy, has been taken away from her. But good old John Fa steps in, strengthening his bond to Ma Costa.
Please. Please.
Benjamin de Ruyter vowed to be Tony's mentor right before Billy was taken by the Gobblers in Episode 1. So Benjamin has been risking his own life to get Billy back. Now, he has secretly recruited Billy's older brother Tony to help him.
Let's take the fight to these Gobblers. I've got a plan. Do you want to be part of it, Tony?
So now Tony is also in danger. Tony just came of age, and now he's already going up against vicious adults. Meanwhile, these two adorable kids are bonding. Billy pointed out how he missed his mother, Ma Costa, the broken bond that we mentioned earlier. On the other hand, Roger pointed out how
I don't have a mom to miss.
Similar to Lyra. Neither Roger nor Lyra had mothers, but they had each other. Best friends. A tight bond, which is why Lyra's so focused on finding him and rescuing him.
Can't you mold me into someone who looks for people when they're lost?
So Lyra is unknowingly with her biological mother, Mrs. Coulter, who claims to be searching for Roger, who is with Billy, who misses his mom, and little does Lyra know, but Billy's mother, Ma Costa, she took care of Lyra when Lyra was a baby. Ma Costa was like a mother to Lyra, then and all the way up until now, always having people keep an eye on Lyra, ever since Lord Asriel and two other people brought her to Jordan College for Scholastic Sanctuary. But now, Lyra's biological mother, Mrs. Coulter, she's entered the equation. Marissa is a very complicated character, very gray. She's torn between her faith, her career, and now Lyra. But without a doubt, Marissa is beginning to prioritize her daughter. When Father McPhail visits, Mrs. Coulter says,
I have some guests arriving. Can you please stay in your room?
And later, when Lyra doesn't listen, she snaps at Lyra.
Lyra, run along. The grown-ups are talking.
I don't mind.
Lyra!
That outburst seemed a little rude, a little excessive, but in truth, Marissa was just worried. She snapped because she's been trying to protect Lyra. That's why she took Lyra in the first place. To keep her close and keep her safe, and she just doesn't trust anyone else to do so.
He thought they would protect you. Another ridiculous idea.
But Marissa is a control freak.
But being extraordinary takes application. It means being prepared to change. And that takes guidance.
First with Lyra's hair, and then with her clothes.
The clothes you wear determine the way people see you.
But here's the problem. You can't force someone to be someone who they are not, or someone who they don't want to be. Mrs. Coulter was able to seduce one of the bears, as we're soon going to find out, but that's because the evil bear wanted what Mrs. Coulter was offering. But Lyra doesn't want to be a normal, high-class girl. Lyra admires her uncle, Lord Asriel, an explorer. That's why she stared at this ship here, and also why she recognized the Skralian cartographer.
Can't you mold me into someone who travels mostly?
Lyra is a free spirit. You have to let her fly, or she'll fly away. And at the end of the episode, after finding out about the station, after finding out that Mrs. Coulter is the person behind the missing children, the head of the Gobblers, Lyra does just so. She flies away. Which leads us into the second topic for the breakdown. Deception. Specifically, manipulation through deception. This story is about truth, academic freedom versus the church, and life as a whole. What is dust? What is consciousness? But along with truth, often comes lies and deception. Lord Asriel deceived the scholars. Asriel had told them that the frozen head was a fellow scholar, Stanislaus Grumman. Azrael did this in order to get funding, and he tricked them. He got that funding. But Lord Boreal snuck down into the crypts, and he found out it's not Stanislaus Grumman's head.
Azrael was lying. It's not him.
And Boreal has a lie of his own. Lord Boreal is connected to both Father MacPhail and to Mrs. Coulter right now. So Boreal knows that the church is worried about the risk that Coulter and the Gobblers are taking. But Boreal is bonded to Mrs. Coulter, sexually. So Boreal is being pulled in two directions, and as a result, he does not tell Marissa the entire truth. He says that he was busy at Oxford, but he leaves out the fact that he also traveled to another world where he is looking for Stanislaus Grumman. The real players in the game of Truth and Lies, however, are Lyra and Mrs. Coulter. Mrs. Coulter has several successes. She greets the kidnapped children with a smile, and she tells them that they're going to
The best place you could possibly go to.
She finds out who Roger is.
Roger.
And Mrs. Coulter has the children write letters to their parents, which has a calming effect on them. They get in line, literally, and then she burns those letters. But in the realm of manipulation through deception, some things don't go her way in this episode. Marissa attempted to seduce MacPhail, as she has presumably done many times before, but this time it didn't work. And although she was able to manipulate Lyra into changing her hair and changing her clothes through the temptation of power and through that compliment, Marissa was unable to change Lyra's behavior.
We shouldn't change just so we can fit in here.
Lyra has successes and failures of her own. Lyra made up a story about Roger climbing up her hair, but Mrs. Coulter didn't buy it.
Lyra, please don't lie to me.
Then she lied about where she heard about dust, but that didn't seem to convince Marissa either. Lyra ignored Pan's first warning, and consequently, the Golden Monkey may have found out about Lyra's alethiometer.
Lyra, we can't let them find the alethiometer. The master said to keep it secret, particularly from her and the Magisterium.
Thankfully, Lyra was able to get the alethiometer before she escaped. But here's the thing. Here's why I keep focusing on this concept of lies and deception. Lyra needs to learn how to deceive people. It plays a major part in the upcoming story a few times, most notably with the bears. And as YouTuber Richard points out, it's in her name, Lyra, lie, lies. A story about truth, where the very first word of book 1 and the last word of the very last book in the trilogy are Lyra. A lie. Arr. When Mrs. Coulter lied about the power of separation, Lyra did not buy it.
What is she?
I don't know, Pan, but we need to find out.
When Mrs. Coulter lied about who Lyra's mother is, Lyra seemed to know the truth. Then, Lyra called out Mrs. Coulter in regards to Roger.
You're lying.
Because she suspected that Mrs. Coulter was not in fact looking for Roger.
I don't think she's been looking for Roger at all.
So what do I do?
A study. Let's find out what she's hiding.
Mrs. Coulter had been spying on Lyra, but Lyra turned that to her own advantage.
You listened to us the whole time, Pan. So, let's use it ourselves.
In doing so, Lyra found the plan for the station and the General Oblation Board, and then Lyra learned a sad truth.
What is she?
She is the Oblation Board. It's entirely her own project.
It's really sad. Lyra ran away, never knowing that her mother was trying to protect her from the Gobblers in her own cruel, sadistic way. Now Lyra's in the hands of the Gobblers, and they don't know that she's their boss's daughter. So Lyra's in danger, and Marissa Coulter's world is crumbling down around her. Every bond is breaking. As we said earlier, the Magisterium is worried about the risk that she's taken, and they are willing to cut ties with her, to break their bond to her.
Tell the Oblation Board to control it all, or they'll lose everything.
So they send Father MacPhail
to warn you that if your activities draw too much attention, then the Magisterium will not protect you. Any sacrifice that we have to perform to preserve its power, we do.
Mrs. Coulter is even struggling with her own demon, the Golden Monkey. You can see he has his back turned to her here, and she slaps him here. Their relationship is terrible, which ties into how Mrs. Coulter has the power of separation, but we're going to wait until after episode 4 or 5 to share that project. It's fully scripted, but I'm waiting to get some better visuals for that one. But yeah, Marissa Coulter is breaking right now. It started a long time ago, when her lover, Lord Asriel left her. It may have been a while ago, but it still hurts, because she still loves him.
If you're not in people's lives, they can forget you quite quickly.
Her sadness is also evidenced by this outburst here.
When has that man ever done anything for you?
He's done everything!
He's done nothing! He's a failure of a man and a failure of father!
So, she lost Lord Asriel a while ago, and in episode 2, she loses her daughter, she loses Lyra. All this in addition to her complex relationship with Lord Boreal and her deteriorating relationship with the Magisterium. But to be clear, the church does not matter nearly as much to Marissa as Lyra does. So Lyra leaving her is the key takeaway of this episode. Marissa's goal to protect Lyra failed. And just like her mother, Lyra's world is also crumbling. Lyra lost Roger twice in episode 1, and in episode 2, Lyra experienced something equally as painful. Get out your tissues. Marissa told Lyra that Lord Asriel is really her father. But in that moment, Lyra did not gain a father. She lost an uncle.
Tell me, who am I? Lord Asriel is.
The same can be said about her mother. She didn't gain one. She lost one. In Marissa's defense, when Lyra asked for space in this episode, she did give it to Lyra.
Please leave me alone.
And they both lay down here, symbolizing their bond, arguably my favorite bond in the entire series. Lyra is a child, so she's going through many changes. And as my boy Drizzt Do'Urden once said, change is not always growth, but growth is often rooted in change. And even adults can change.
This isn't who you are!
It's never too late to change. It's never too late to grow.
Never too late to stop robbing people, to stop killing people, start helping people. It's never too late to come back.